Hello. I'm Ryan Harper. And we are product managers at CitiVentures Studio. CitiVentures Studio is a new group within CitiVentures that is focused on creating products to help support economic vitality. And we had the privilege of working with the Census and the Opportunity Project to build our first product, City Builder. City Builder is a web application for exploring place-based investments. And the goal of City Builder is to improve economic vitality for everyone. In its first iteration, City Builder allows users to explore opportunity zones and qualified opportunity funds. In so doing, City Builder brings transparency to the opportunity zone ecosystem.
We had the chance to participate in the Opportunity Project Sprint this year, and by doing so, we were able to talk to a variety of ecosystem stakeholders. These included community advocates, investors, and fund managers. And through these interviews, we decided on two main functionalities for the site: exploring opportunity zones and browsing qualified opportunity funds. In our initial launch, we decided on including 9 cities. And by doing so, we aimed to represent a variety of geographies and show what cities can look like. And we wanted this to be as diverse as the United States itself. We worked with city representatives to tell unique stories through both data and resource links. Soon, we plan to quickly scale to all 8,700 plus opportunity zones across the nation. When I attended the Opportunity Projects workshop in Chicago, a lot of the ideas we ended up brainstorming focused on the need for translation. How do we reconcile on-the-ground information with quantifiable and investable facts? Our key feature to address this need is the social impact filters. We spatially represent both census data and other federal open data sets to translate what people on the ground know with what investors want to see. In the future, we want to continue building out this feature set and include economic and development information.
Through the Opportunity Project, we also had the ability to talk to a number of user advocates and investors and fund managers. And one of the things we heard was that there were a lot of questions about what made the funds different. And so we decided to build a way for users to go in and explore things like the investment focus of the funds, or the geographic focus of the funds, or the minimum investment amount. And this information was being used to help investors make decisions about where to invest in order to make the change that they really wanted to see in their communities and around the US. Additionally, we heard that because the funds are so new, there were a lot of questions about who was behind the funds and the history of the firms. And so we gathered together information about the funds from a variety of data sources, including the SEC Edgar database, to make that information easily accessible to investors so that they could make sure that they were making the type of investment that they were interested in.
To conclude, we really enjoyed the opportunity to work with TOP. And City Builder is now live at city.com/citybuilder. City Builder is only one of a few projects that is coming out of CitiVentures Studio to address economic vitality. Thank you for your time, and we look forward to hearing your feedback.
Good afternoon, everyone. Oh, come on now. Good afternoon, everyone. We've got a lot of people in this room. You can be louder than that. All right. Well, I'm Rob Lalka, and I'm the chairman of the board of a company called Public Democracy. Before I get started, I want to say thank you to Drew and the entire TOP team. Y'all have made this experience really wonderful for us, and I just want to say thank you. So, round of applause for them first, please, guys. And so I've been writing and talking, and anyone who will listen hears from me that opportunity zones are indeed a mission, as Scott Turner just said, They're also a market. It's an emerging market. And so the question about this market is really, who is going to lead this market? If we think about any markets that are developing around the country, often we think about investors as being the people who are leading it. And so when we look all across the country, and this is the first thing that we did through the Opportunity Project, we started surveying who is leading this effort. And I have good news for you. The headlines might be a bit too hardline. Actually, the truth is that communities are leading. Each one of these stars on this map represents 63 prospectuses that local officials, economic development leaders, mayors have all created. And the beauty of when you look at actually all of these prospectuses, which we've done, is that they're cities in all shapes, all sizes, all flavors, all types. My favorite example is about to pop up. Little Montrose, Colorado, population 20,000 people, has a 28-page prospectus, and it is beautiful. They've done a great job sort of showcasing their projects, showing what their community cares about through opportunity zones. Now, our company took the effort to then say, how do we analyze the census data to map out why these communities are the way they are, and maybe what we need to look at more deeply to understand them. Then we went even deeper to try and understand in a real way how that census data could marry up with other data that we had in our data set. Try to get this going. Uh-oh. Drew, help. Reset, there it is. I'll just keep going. So we surveyed 165,000 people in a particular city that we partnered with through the Opportunity Project. That's Birmingham, Alabama. Now, for those of you who have been following this, Birmingham's shown a lot of leadership. They have good community leadership across this, but also the mayor has been saying, we want to make this reflect our communities. And so, as you can see, we surveyed 165,000 people in Birmingham to understand, what do you want? What do you need? And also, like, what do you already believe in? What do you already see for your community? What do you hope for? What are your dreams? And that's important. It's not just trying to understand these people as people in need. It's understanding these people as agents of their own future and as people who have their own opinions about where things should go. And that's what we were able to do by listening to them. We took an empathy-based approach by surveying the people in Birmingham. We then geofenced businesses in the OZs to understand in a deep way what the spending patterns were and how that purchasing might inform market intelligence that we could then build for investors. And then we used enterprise-level marketing tools. And so what this allowed us to do was understand behavior. We're able to see what people are looking at, and we know whether the information that they're looking at on their screens is involved with particular ways that they're able to, there we go, ways that we're able to understand them. And so if you look at this, over 93% of children in this opportunity zone in Birmingham live with a single parent. That's a powerful truth about this community. That's ACS data we used. Then we looked at what they're looking at on their phones. You see the number 2 top content that they're looking at is the fact that they're teen parents. These aren't people who are just waiting for something to happen to them. They're trying really hard to be better parents and to sort of make sure that their future, and especially the future of their children, is something that's going to be able to be better than what they've had. And what you see from this, and all these numbers are wrong, it didn't translate over, but if you look at what they're actually saying in the survey data, after-school programs and childcare are the top 2. That's the key point from this slide, is that you ask them, what do you want? And they said, I need after-school programs and childcare. Notice where grocery stores are, near the bottom of that list. So even though 70% of Birmingham's residents live in food deserts, they don't want a new grocery store necessarily. They want childcare. So we reprioritize in that regard. Also, we looked at where they're getting their information. The New York Times, Birmingham Business Journal, Wall Street Journal, all of those are behind a paywall. The number 1 site where people in opportunity zones are getting their news is Fox News. It's open, it's free, it doesn't have a paywall. And then finally, if you're going to work in Birmingham's opportunity zones, single moms, the number 1 demographic, it's quite literally the future of Birmingham. And those are the people who are responding to our survey that, frankly, wouldn't have the ability to show up to town halls. And so data is a better solution for our democracy. I'd just like to close to say thank you. We will be here all day at the demo day. We're really grateful for the opportunity to roll out this new product. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Matt Dunne, and I'm the founder and executive director of the Center on Rural Innovation. And we're here to talk about our Rural Opportunity Map, and specifically the Rural Startup Scout. The Center on Rural Innovation was created in 2017 in response to the largest economic crisis we have seen in a generation and the largest opportunity gap that we have seen in history. And this is an opportunity gap that began at the Great Recession and has continued to widen over the years that followed, including the first ever drop in population on the net in rural places in 2011, 12, 13, and 14. And the causes of this economic crisis in rural America came down to a number of factors, but they included automation of traditionally rural industries, as well as globalization that allowed for manufacturing to take place anywhere in the world, not just in inexpensive labor markets in the U.S. And unfortunately, that situation is not getting any better. You have a high percentage of the middle-class jobs that remain in rural America that involve commercial driver's licenses, and we know where those are heading in the near future. We also see many of the other industries, such as extraction or other kinds of manufacturing, rapidly automating. And that's going to affect the jobs that are available in rural places very, very quickly. The other major factor was a decline in entrepreneurship. And entrepreneurship declined in rural America faster than it did anywhere else. As we know, the entrepreneurs of today are the employers of tomorrow, and the end result really affected the investment. So less than 1% of all venture capital investments go to rural places. But we are optimists at the Center on Rural Innovation, and we actually see trends that can suggest hope and opportunity moving forward. The biggest delta between where people live now and where they want to live are people living in cities who would rather live in rural. We're seeing an unbelievable build-out of broadband by community using scrappy rural techniques to be able to bring fiber to the home, gigabit speed internet, and opportunity zones present incredible opportunities since the vast majority of acres in America are actually in rural opportunity zones that can be catalysts for growth. So we are an action tank. On the action side, we help communities that are excited to build digital economy ecosystems to be able to do so in their communities with computer science education, entrepreneurship centers, co-work spaces, and actually bringing investment to those particular locations. We're in 9 communities across 8 states, and with the support of the EDA, we're actually building that out to another 10 communities over the next year. But we're also, on the tank side, interested in the power of data and mapping. And so with the support of MasterCard, Walmart, Rural Lisk, Schmidt Futures, and Reid Hoffman, we have built the Rural Opportunity Map and the Rural Entrepreneurial Scout that can allow for people to look first at where there are opportunity zones in rural America. We then allow you to focus in on the kind of variables that would indicate that a tech ecosystem can grow there. And these can include things like where there's higher patent activity and be able to filter out those communities and opportunity zones with that kind of dynamic development of IP. We can also filter to STEM talent, so where there are individuals who have STEM degrees that are concentrated in those locations. And then we can look at other kinds of assets, including the percent of employment by younger companies that are indications. You can then go and explore another several hundred data sets, including many of those here at Census, and be able to really dive into where there's opportunity and to share what it is that is happening in those communities so that strategic investment decisions can be made. Please check it out at ruralopportunitymap.us. Thank you.
Hi, is this working? Oh, this one's working. Hi, everyone. My name is Arturo Franco. I work for the MasterCard Center for Inclusive Growth. And I also wanted to start by congratulating Drew and the team for getting to 100 products and for the great support and the work that they do. At the MasterCard Center for Inclusive Growth, we believe that economic growth is great. I saw a sign out there that said, helping the economy grow, U.S. Department of Commerce. But we think that the growth should be, the benefits of that growth should be broadly distributed in the way in which Scott Turner was talking about this shared prosperity. And so after many years of working on trying to tackle those segments of society, those people that are left behind through financial inclusion and other means, and focusing on small businesses and their growing pains, we also decided to look at place. And I like starting with this quote from David Brooks, the New York Times columnist, which talks a little bit about what a neighborhood is. And a neighborhood is, in fact, a unit of analysis where a lot of things can happen that can impact the lives of the people that are being left behind. And so I believe the Opportunity Zone incentive has this same spirit. It's looking at these almost 9,000 communities and asking what is their potential? How do we measure their opportunity? What is the story that each one of these neighborhoods is trying to write for themselves? And so that's where we started, with about 10% of the population living in opportunity zones. We thought that this was a great place to do place-based economic development. We went around the country, maybe not 50 cities in 8 months, but we did our share, about 25. We spoke to local policymakers, we spoke to mayors, we spoke to community leaders. We came to Washington a few times as well. And we found that there were two very specific concerns or needs out there that we could help tackle. The first was capacity building. Many local communities didn't have the specialists, the economic development people, the capacity to put those prospectus documents that Rob was mentioning together and to bring everyone to the table, as Scott mentioned. The second was information and data, and this is exactly why we're here and why we partnered with the census. And so I'm going to talk a little bit more about the data, which is our inclusive growth score. But just to say that we're very privileged to have partnered with the Urban Institute, with the Accelerator for America, with Corey, Matt and team, and the Governance Project. These are really the organizations that are doing the work on the ground, and I salute them and I congratulate them. And what we did at the MasterCard Center for Inclusive Growth is that we leverage the assets of MasterCard to do our social impact work. So what we put together a team of data scientists. Lucia is here. We had about 6 or 7 data scientists. And we created an index that measures both growth and inclusion at the neighborhood level. What we found originally is that opportunity zones show less growth, less access to things like affordable rents, internet subscriptions, and short commutes, and less inclusion than the average census tract. But at the same time, they also show a massive diversity between them in almost any variable. So when it was time to choose our variables, we chose 18 metrics that we believe measure both the economic growth on one hand and the inclusion of these communities on the other hand. And those 18 metrics are divided into 3 pillars. The first measures a place. So how is a place evolving? Is a population growing or not? Are there more buildings? Are they worth more? Are people finding more affordable rents or not? The second component is the economy, and that's where combining proprietary data, the type of data that MasterCard aggregates from anonymized transactions and that other data providers bring to the table, is really powerful, because you can get data that is 3-6 months old that show things like spend growth. Is the census tract seeing increases in spend? Is the economy of the census tract growing at the neighborhood level? Are there new businesses showing up in our data? And we're also thinking about the inclusiveness of those businesses. Are they owned by minorities or by women? Is there commercial diversity, or are they all the same type of business? And the third pillar is what we call community, the well-being of the community. So here we really used a lot of the census data to try to paint a picture of how the community is evolving from a well-being perspective. When you put those 18 indicators together, you can create an index that we call the Inclusive Growth Score. It goes from 0 to 100. We have 2 years of data, and next year we'll have our third year, which is 2019. As I said, it combines these public and private sources, and we believe that it allows people to better understand these neighborhoods. It allows people to know where they are coming from and where they are going to. And in the future, we think that it will draw attention not just to the imperative of prosperity and growth, but to the imperative of that prosperity being widely shared. And that's our ultimate aim. So I ran out of time, but if you join us on the demo, you can actually see the map that we have there. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Arturo, and to all of the Opportunity Project teams. It's really exciting to see these teams already work together, and they're all completing the picture of how we support opportunity zones with data and technology in really different ways that are so complementary. So it was an incredible privilege to work with them in the sprint. And now I would like to turn it over to a speaker who's going to introduce our second theme within workforce. So as I mentioned, we took on investing in the American workforce in all communities. Part of that was opportunity zones and catalyzing investment. The other part of it was supporting high growth entrepreneurship to ensure that we are catalyzing an innovation economy in all places and not just a few. And part of that is really ensuring that we're supporting entrepreneurship, we're helping to connect talent with entrepreneurs and growing businesses, and to ensure that we're helping people to connect with job opportunities, even if they have really unique circumstances that come to their employment. So I'm going to introduce Mandy Price, who's the CEO and co-founder of a company called Kanarys, which participated in our sprint and built an incredible product with open data. But she is also a technologist and a founder and entrepreneur herself who has also been a celebrated attorney and advocate, and we're really thrilled to have her introduce why these topics are so important.
Can you guys hear me? Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much. So I'm so happy to be here today to tell you about Kanarys and how we're using EEOC data to help cultivate and create equitable, inclusive workplaces. So when you look at the current landscape of D&I initiatives, 97% of large and mid-sized companies have formal D&I programs, yet less than 25% of employees feel that they've benefited from them. And I have to tell you, I was one of those employees. Even though I was on my firm's diversity committee, I remember coming back from maternity leave 3 years ago and walking into our brand new offices. And one of the things that stuck out to me was the offices were entirely glass, and we did not have a lactation room. So I was confronted with something that many returning mothers face. Am I going to go to HR and bring this issue up, or am I going to stop nursing, which is unfortunately what most mothers do. And so we have to think about what is it about our current D&I programs that aren't working. And the research shows us that it's lack of data and lack of employee involvement. And so when we look at the structural issues, right, because a lot of the structural systems actually need to be changed in order to reduce the disparities within our society. And when you think, for example, the fact that women have been the majority of college degree holders over the last 4 decades, why are those numbers not translating over into our actual workforce? When you think about in 2019 right now, we have more male CEOs named David, just named David in the Fortune 1000, than the entire female CEOs. Just named David. So those are the kind of systems and structures that we're looking at. Now, I know talking about inequities in our society makes people uncomfortable, especially when we bring up anything dealing with race or religion, disability, sexuality. But if we know that talent is not dominant in one particular race or gender or sexuality, we have to look at our systems and say, what is perpetuating these inequalities? So when we started Kanarys, just like the coal miners used to take Kanarys down to help look at whether a workplace was toxic or healthy, it would help them forecast. What we're doing is helping companies forecast and look at their policies to help cultivate healthy workplace cultures, ones rooted in inclusion, equity, and fairness. So I remember coming back to the workplace, like I said, and I was on the Women's Task Force as well, and one of the things that we were assessed with was looking at our parental leave policies, because like most companies, we wanted them to be fair, and we wanted them to be market. But the problem was, we didn't know what market was. And that's what we're doing at Kanarys. We help companies utilize data so that they can actually have metrics and benchmarks to drive their DEI strategy. In addition to that, we also provide a forum so that employees can actually discuss diversity, equity, inclusion issues without fear of retaliation. We then use the surveys and the reviews. We use natural language processing to then extract that data to provide actionable insights for companies so they know the exact issues and policies they need to put in place to address the issues that their workers are actually dealing with on a day-to-day basis. I know a lot of times when we talk about diversity and inclusion issues, they seem very amorphous. It seems very pie in the sky, and that's why utilizing data is so important, because D&I has real effects in our society. When we look at the research, for example, the Texas Women's Foundation has shown that there would be a 51% reduction within the poverty rates in Texas if we were able to eliminate the gender pay gap. Can you imagine the effects on our society if we were able to reduce poverty at those levels? So we are so excited to utilize data to drive these initiatives, because D&I is not only the smart thing to do, it's the right thing to do. And our businesses, our products, and our society as a whole depends on it. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. So I'm Taylor Marr. I'm lead economist at Redfin, which is a national tech-empowered real estate brokerage, for those of you who haven't heard of it. Excited to be participating in the second sprint of the Opportunity Project. So for this, a lot of what you've heard so far have been focusing on data about places. So we're really focusing in, narrowing in on jobs and people specifically. So let me tell you about my brother who recently finished an MBA. I'm from Iowa. He lives in Iowa still. And there's supposed to be a video here, so I don't know if it's going to go. Maybe not. But anyway, so he is looking for jobs right now. And one of the things that really prevents him from finding opportunities is really just knowing where are the jobs located, what to expect in terms of pay, how to think about these numbers of pay, because pay varies so much across the country, and so do cost of living and housing costs, as well as taxes. There's a lot to think about. And so what we did was we put a bunch of data together from the Bureau of Labor Statistics around at the occupation level. So if he's wanting to pursue a job in web development, for example, he can see things like how is that median pay across different metro areas? What are the components of housing costs? And there was an interactive video where you can see if you plan to own versus rent, and you can hover over and see exactly how much you could expect to spend on things like transportation, housing, heating and energy costs, which all come together to make up really how much pay you can get for this job. And making information like this available to people both across metros, but also within a city where you can see a bunch of information diving into the metro level. So where are neighborhoods with good access to transit, where you can actually access those jobs, or where are opportunity zones if you're thinking about investing in different areas as well. And in terms of moving to places of opportunity, we also didn't want to just focus on people who are looking for careers, but also entrepreneurs and connecting them. So for people looking to hire, they might also want to know where are the jobs concentrated. Let's say they're looking to figure out how much they should pay them to maybe not lose them from relocating to Seattle from Iowa, but how can they adjust their pay in Iowa to be on par with adjusting for cost of living? And this is something that we heard also from entrepreneurs, is that they're wanting to better understand, well, why is it that all the talent leaves? We want to invest in these places, but oftentimes people still go to where the jobs pay the best. So how can you adjust things that you don't have to pay as much as Seattle, but adjusted for cost of living? What are ways to remain competitive or to find hidden pockets of talent as well? And there's a lot of other data that we made available as well to compare different metro areas and make all this data available at the metro and the census tract level. But for my brother, this information goes a long way in helping him think about where to move, where to start his career, and also for entrepreneurs of where they can think about really building a business and ecosystem of people that are doing whatever occupation you want. So we have all of the occupations from the Bureau of Labor Statistics in here, and also we made a bunch of data available. And Redfin helps millions of people move across the country as well. So this is another way we can put this right in front of people. All of this is publicly available, but one thing we want to do is really connect it through our agents, through our website, to put that information front and center for people who are trying to make that decision and decide where to live. And then we have a bunch of other data as well that is all going to be available on our website. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Hector Acosta, and I am with EMSI. EMSI helps communities across the country better understand their labor market. And despite being well-versed in economic data, the plight of American entrepreneurship has never been more apparent than through our work with the Opportunity Project. Our very first conversation with the user advocate was with Xiaolin Gong, who began her career in the Bay Area before co-founding Simple Rose, an optimization company based in St. Louis. Her story shed light on the obstacles that entrepreneurs and small businesses face when attempting to hire high-tech talent. Like many small businesses and entrepreneurs, Xiaolin's conundrum boils down to one main point. She wants to expand her business, but she can't find the talent she needs. And given the many constraints that entrepreneurs face, Xiaolin is left to guessing where she should look. Based on our conversations with user advocates like Xiaolin, EMSI created the Talent Finder tool. Utilizing a variety of federal data sources and our own private proprietary data, the Talent Finder tool not only identifies where high-tech talent exists throughout the country, but also provides the user actionable insights that they can then leverage to attract talent more efficiently. The Talent Finder tool accomplishes this task by focusing on 3 core metrics, the first of which is employment data from a variety of federal data sources. And we arm these entrepreneurs with data, in this case, looking at software developer. There's the option to select from 17 different tech occupations. And based on this information alone, what you see here, the green representing high concentrations of employment for software developers, an entrepreneur might think, well, I should probably prioritize my recruiting efforts in some of these major metros. And that is why the next step of the Talent Finder tool then incorporates federal wage data in combination with rent and housing data to assess a cost of living ratio. And some of the regions that you see listed here, such as San Jose, while these are hot pockets of concentration for tech workers, and they also earn high wages here, the cost of living factor actually indicates that these workers in those fields would be better off and would have greater purchasing power in other communities like St. Louis. And the third metric we put together And possibly the most important is then incorporating migration data from an IRS public data set. And what the migration data gives the entrepreneur is the information of where exactly people are actually moving from into their region. And so rather than prioritizing efforts in areas where there is no migration patterns, they can hone in on areas where migration trends are increasing. When combining all three of those core metrics, talent, cost of living, and migration, we get the result of the Talent Attraction Index. The Talent Attraction Index provides information and highlights communities throughout the country that are strong across all three of those metrics so that users can then identify where they can recruit most efficiently. And ultimately, we hope that this index changes some misconceptions about where entrepreneurs can recruit talent from. And lastly, I'd like to add about an exciting opportunity that resulted from our work with the Opportunity Project. Not only in addition to creating this product, there was also a transformation on EMSI's team, largely in thanks to the work through the facilitated sprint. While still tackling traditional consulting projects, our team has created an innovation-based approach where we prioritize and focus on identifying new data sets and finding new ways of presenting data to solve workforce issues. On behalf of EMSI, I thank the top team for the chance to work through the facilitated sprint, and we look forward to continually identifying innovative solutions for complex issues.
Hello, everyone. I'm Matt Strauss, founder and CEO of Solve. So, with Solve, we work in underserved communities. So meet Peyton and many others like him. We're right now only in Chicago, but we are expanding. And in our communities, everyone has a different story. People have challenges or barriers to employment that could be as many as these or just one of these. But now meet Peyton. Due to privacy reasons, Peyton is not a real person, but this is someone's story. Peyton wanted a job. He also realized he had minimal social capital, so he needed a mentor to find a job. He was facing housing instability, sleeping at his friend's house, his cousin's house, etc. He didn't have access to transportation because he wasn't close to a train line, or Lyft or Uber couldn't get him because he couldn't afford it. He realized that he wanted to get a job, but he had minimal skills due to lack of education in his communities due to broken educational barriers. He had trauma from a past incarceration and was feeling a little slow to get out of bed and felt a little weak to talk to people. He realized that this was just a misdemeanor, that he just needed some help to get rid of the expungement for his misdemeanor. It's overwhelming for folks like Peyton. And as we all know, in underserved communities, there's too many folks like this right now. But there's a solution. We're Solve.is. We connect people that are facing barriers to employment to jobs, training programs, career fairs, and wraparound services to solve all their barriers to employment. It's an ambitious name, but that's what we do. We've been around for about 2 years now. We've acquired about 30 customers. Our biggest customer is the Obama Library team out of Turner Construction, Clayco Construction that built the Sears Tower in Chicago, Chicago Urban League, and a few others. There's our team. Dario Medina's out there somewhere. He's one of our team members. He's actually coming on full-time in January. He actually worked for Redfin right before this, believe it or not. So what's next? Come by our booth. Raise your hand if any of these states that are in the green you live in or you know people in. You can raise your hand as high as you want. All right, now in the gray, I think everyone should raise your hand then. We'll be there in 2 years. So please do come by. We're always looking to meet folks. So we have 2 customers that are growing us into those cities. And the way we grow is they onboard all their partners, and those partners then onboard their partners and their job candidates and their participants to then find more jobs. So we have a really big network effect. So I'd be very grateful to meet with you after. We also might have gift cards. That's our off-centered side, but thank you.
Looks like this is the one. Good afternoon. My name is Derek Lawrence. I'm the program manager for Allogy. And what we put together was a career explorer that was going to help veterans match careers and certifications that were connected to their training in the military. One of the first things we did was commission a study which found that veterans, when they come out of the military, can expect to have a 25% lower labor force participation than their non-veteran counterparts. This equates to about $75,000 less over their lifetime, or $71,000 less over their lifetime. And we looked at reasons why. One of the reasons is that the time that most people are spending earning their degrees and certifications are the time that our veterans are serving. And when they come out, they have a lot of military training and experience, but they don't necessarily have an easy path to credentials, and they don't necessarily have an easy path to a civilian analog for the things that they were expert in the military. That means a lot of times they end up in jobs of convenience rather than the jobs that are related to their experience. And that's what's driving a lot of the lower earning power. So our case study, we spoke to a hospital corpsman, we'll call him Nick. In the military, hospital corpsman, training, certifications, responsibilities, everything. He came out and he wanted to be a nurse, but he didn't have a clear path to credentials. So instead of becoming a nurse, he goes into hospital administration. As one person put it, he goes from being in charge in the military to moving into the civilian sector and being told, you now have a here, hold this job. His job in hospital administration, he doesn't have a degree, he doesn't have certifications. All his military training is for naught in terms of his medical training, and he doesn't really have a path into nursing. So instead of being a nurse with admin skills, who's able to be more successful because of his time in the military, he's prevented from moving into his optimal career path. So our Career Explorer tries to solve this in 3 steps. First, it takes military training. It takes somebody's curriculum, somebody's credentials, their learning records from the military, and says, pulling from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, here are analogous career paths in the civilian sector. Here are also what you can expect to earn in terms of those career paths, because you might love doing something, but you might not be able to afford to do it on the civilian side. That being said, you might have an analogous career path open to you because of your military experience. We also look at providing a pathway to credentials. A lot of them have certificates coming out of the military, but those certificates are not necessarily immediately analogous. So we're looking at being able to provide that to people. And finally, we're looking at partnering with degree providers like the University of Miami, Arizona State University, in order to be able to say to somebody coming out, you want credentials, you want a degree path, these institutions will partner with you based on your training and your certificates in the military to provide you with additional credit towards your path. So somebody enters in their curriculum level, they are able to see what their skill set is, and that can track over into medical records and health information and career paths in the civilian sector. It traces the mean salary so that in your area you can see what you need to do. It also allows you to compare the careers that I'm interested in, how do those stack up next to each other? Our future state is to be able to take our military certifications, map those over to the equivalent civilian certifications, and give people a head start on their paths in order to be either granted civilian certifications or full degrees, with the idea that somebody would be able to look at their career options, and then we are able to link directly to providing institutions that would give them credit towards what they are doing. So this is what we're doing in order to try and help link veterans into the civilian sector more successfully and to overcome that 25% gap. So I'd like to thank our partners at the TOP project and also our partners at the Defense Health Agency for allowing us to take part in this. It's been a real pleasure. Thank you.
Hey. Hi, everyone. I am very excited to introduce this next topic of innovating the 2020 census. Can anybody guess how many days we are away from the census starting? No one? 93. Pretty close. I think it's 92, actually. Somebody cheated, or it may be a very senior leader at the Census Bureau. I'm glad you know that. 92 days away from one of the biggest and most important operations in the United States. Why is it important? Well, money, power, and data. So money is close to $700 billion every year that's going into from federal funds into states and communities for programs and services, hospitals, healthcare, schools, roads, bridges, etc. It's what makes our communities thrive. And in terms of power, it's about apportionment, which is how many seats each state gets in the House of Representatives, as well as congressional redistricting and redistricting at all those local levels as well. And of course, it's about data. So we have to get it right. And one of the big challenges is that there are many groups that are considered hard to count. So that is one of the issues that these teams today are going to be addressing. One of the things that's new about this next decennial census is that for the first time, it's going to be conducted primarily online. And so bridging the digital divide is also going to be key, and that's another issue that some of these teams are tackling. So to introduce the next topic, I would like to introduce first Denice Ross. And Denice is actually a co-founder of the Opportunity Project, so we're so glad to have her back here on stage. She was a Presidential Innovation Fellow and was on the front lines in New Orleans after Katrina using data to help with disaster relief. She's also was at OMB supporting communities with data. Thank you so much, Denice, for being here.
Thanks. Hi, everyone. So it's an honor to be here today talking about two of my favorite things, the decennial census and the Opportunity Project. So this is my third census, but the first time around, I was just using the data, not helping to get out the count. Back when Census 2000 data came out, I worked for a nonprofit in New Orleans. This was the first time that census data were being released, and the web was a thing. So there was this opportunity to really democratize the data so it wasn't just in the hands of statisticians and people in power, but communities could use it to help chart the path for their own destinies. We spent years building the capacity of the nonprofit sector and community to use data. Nonprofits were using the data to make a more compelling case for funding vital services. Local community foundations were using census data to figure out where the most strategic place to invest would be. And neighborhood advocates were using census data to advocate for the future they wanted for their communities. Things were going pretty well, and we were so focused on helping people use the data to improve our city that you might even say that I started to take the census data a little bit for granted, that it would always be there. So that all changed in August of 2005 when a hurricane named Katrina headed our way. At the last minute, it wobbled to the east, and we actually got the good side of the storm, for the record, but the federal levee infrastructure failed and flooded 80% of our city. All of those census data that we were using before the storm became instantly obsolete as our people scattered to all 50 states. We were flying blind in this recovery. We didn't know where should we put clinics to help keep people healthy while they're rebuilding. Which parks should we rehab first after the toxic flooding? What neighborhoods are going to need childcare centers the most? And what we felt in a very deep level was how hard it was to count all of the people in your community. It's harder than it sounds. And you might not truly appreciate how important it is these data are until you don't have access to them. These census numbers about our population, they don't sprout from Zeus's head, and you can't get it they don't come from a Google search. Google gets the data from the Census Bureau, just for the record there. So I can't tell you how happy I was when Census 2010 came around. This is my doorknob. I may have cried. I was really happy to see this data start to be collected again. And I swore I would never take the census for granted. So the decennial census is truly an all-hands-on-deck endeavor. As Marr mentioned, for the federal government, it's the largest non-wartime effort that the federal agencies put on. And there are lots of crucial supporting roles: state and local government, nonprofits, schools, community-based organizations, civil rights groups, social media platforms, and the media. And behind the scenes, as Ron Jarman mentioned earlier, the Census Bureau is making extensive use of data and digital tools and innovation and modernization to make this the best count that it can be. So the question before us today is, how might we harness federal data to supercharge the efforts of communities to get out the count? And that's where the beauty of the technology of the Opportunity Project comes in. It's one of the best models for unlocking the power of government data to serve the American people. It's a rare, safe space for federal data stewards to interact with technologists and for community stakeholders and subject matter experts to make sure that the final digital products hit the mark and do no harm. I've been on all sides of this triangle. As a former data steward in both local government and a presidential innovation fellow in the Department of Energy, I found that opportunities to collaborate authentically with the public were few and far between. Usually we would just publish the data and hope it was useful. And from the outside, as a citizen, when I was seeking to talk with the data stewards inside of government about their data, I often had trouble getting past the comms team. As a stakeholder in my community, I saw many expensive digital tools that were ostensibly built for communities, but not with them. And in the end, those tools failed to serve the people. So it's with this background that it was especially uplifting to participate in this census sprint as a subject matter expert and watch the ideas flowing between the technologists, the federal data stewards, the community stakeholders, and by different means too, by phone call, by video conferences, emails, and even Slack. So over the next few minutes, you'll see demos for tools designed for specific stakeholders: community members helping to get out the count for their region, or specific hard-to-count populations like Latinx residents, people experiencing homelessness, or people from diaspora communities. This has been an iterative process, and I can't wait to see the final products from this 12-week sprint. So without further ado, I'll turn the stage over to the teams to start presenting.
Good afternoon. My name is Jorge Fontanez. I'm the acting head of partnerships for Next Day Better. And I'm excited to introduce to you our campaign for Why We Count. Our mission at Next Day Better is to rebrand migration, and we do this by centering untold stories of the human journey and making the invisible more visible. Taking on the census and the checkbox specifically has meant reclaiming it as a symbol of empowerment and change. And as a member of the Puerto Rican diaspora living in New York City today, this is personal for me. Next Day Better serves diaspora communities, and our 2020 census campaign, Why We Count, helps to educate and empower the Puerto Rican and Filipino diaspora communities, and together we are 9 million strong across the nation. Diaspora members like Rose, a Filipina, is pro-census because emergency Medicaid saved her life when she was diagnosed with leukemia while she was undocumented and unemployed. I invite you to listen to Rose's story at our site, whywecount.org. She, amongst other sheroes, are answering the question, what does it mean to be fully counted and seen? Our participation in the top sprint meant that we used data overlaying the hard-to-count maps and census tracts with low broadband access. And we created demographic and psychographic profiles using the Census Behavior Attitudes and Motivations Survey, or CBAMS, to also study communities like this one in the Bronx, to identify the people our campaign intends to reach and engage. These rich data sources allowed us to create personas like La Mezcla, or the mixed households. Here is an example of that target audience. Our focus has been intergenerational households living with grandparents and their grandchildren together, and their mindset often is confidentially minded with low trust in federal government but high trust with community organizations that they know best. Our opportunity was to identify community-based organizations who they trust in this moment. And so for those community-based organizations, or CBOs, we've packaged our Why We Count stories in the form of a digital storytelling toolkit. These community stories are available for free on our website, and our resources are designed to support CBO in-person events, trainings, and support their social media channels. We invite you and any community-based organization that you know to watch and share our stories. Together, we can help and fill the void online by sharing these stories widely and also combating misinformation and disinformation. While we also believe that these stories speak universally, not only does Rose tell us about how participating in census can help save lives, but Ria, the executive director of the Damayan Migrant Workers Association, is daily working to bring undocumented women out of the shadows and use our resources to more easily educate them. Also, Lila, a warrior Latina working with New York Disaster Interface Services, knows that census will help Puerto Rico families who have migrated to states like New York and Florida rebuild their lives. While Valerie, a culinary chef working and living her dream as there at the Lower East Side Girls Club, grounds us in the fact that being counted simply means more funding for her block. Thanks to our participation in the Top Sprint, we are one step closer to helping fill the story void, to scale positive stories, and to motivate participation online for the 1.5 million Puerto Rican and Filipino diaspora members living in New York. And with your help, we can reach the 9 million nationwide. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Kristen Lewis. I'm the director of Measure of America, which is an initiative of the Social Science Research Council. We work with partners to create reports and data tools for understanding well-being and opportunity in America. Today, I'm going to talk about a tool we created with our longtime partners, the Latino Community Foundation in San Francisco, called the Latino Power Map. Okay. So the problem the Latino Community Foundation asks us to help them address is the potential 2020 undercount of Latinos in California. The stakes are huge. Latinos are the largest ethnic group in California, so getting a correct count matters not just to Latino communities, but also to the state as a whole. Experts fear an undercount because Latinos are disproportionately likely to experience language barriers, to be immigrants, to be renters, and to live in poverty, all risk factors for not being counted in the census. In addition, Latinos are increasingly reluctant to provide information to the government, even if they're citizens or green card holders. A recent Urban Institute report identified California as one of the states with the highest risk of a Latino undercount. The state of California asked the Latino Community Foundation to serve as the lead organization for census outreach to the Latino community for the state of California. The state was struggling to find trusted messengers in the Latino community. Community organizations with the legitimacy needed to educate the population and convince people to fill out the census forms. The foundation asked us to help them make these sometimes invisible organizations visible to those doing census outreach, visible to policymakers, visible to journalists, and visible to one another. So what we created is the Latino Power Map, a mapping and data tool. The map allows users to display roughly 50 demographic and socioeconomic indicators across California's 265 public use microdata areas, or PUMAs. So what are PUMAs? PUMAs are areas defined by our friends here at the Census Bureau. They're made up of contiguous census tracts, and the average PUMA in California has around 150,000 residents. So the first thing that makes this map unique is that all the data are shown only for the Latino population of California. So the lighter colors represent lower values, the darker colors higher values. And so let me just give you an example. So here we have the Latino median household income by Puma. The bar chart that you see on the left shows the distribution of median income for the Latino population across the state, ranging from around a little bit more than $30,000 median household income up to $150,000 for Latinos in California. The median is around $56,000. And what you see here is Southeast Fresno, where the median household income is around $36,000. So a person doing census outreach in this area could see how Latinos in Fresno are faring economically compared to Latino communities elsewhere in the state. They can also hover above different neighborhoods to compare differences among neighborhoods. And the info button that you can't really see very well, but it's on the top there. When you click on that, it shows the data source for each indicator, each of the 50 indicators we have, and also links you directly to the raw data and the original data source. A second feature of the tool is that it allows the user to display on the map about 500 Latino nonprofits. These community-based organizations are shown as dots, with different colored dots representing 13 different kinds of organizations, such as organizations fostering civic engagement, economic development, education, and more. And this list was compiled by LCF. So someone working on census outreach could find all kinds of partners using this map. And when you click a dot on the map, a box with information on that particular nonprofit will pop up. So it will have its website, its phone number, and its mission statement. And the box also shows data on the Latino population in the area where the nonprofit is located. And I will just wrap up by saying that we have a streamlined version of the tool available for your mobile device because our users need to access this information, not just when they're sitting at their desks, but also when they're out working in the field, trying to educate communities on the census, how important it is, and trying to get them to fill out the census. So thanks.
All right, hello everyone. My name is Chris Lyon and I am with Excella, and we partnered with Census to work on hard to count populations, especially those experiencing homelessness in our community. So I want to start off with a story. Every day on my way to work, I bike past a small park, and I have noticed in this park that I have a new neighbor, and he has set up his house in this park. And after joining this project and working with individuals experiencing homelessness, my interest in talking to this person grew exponentially. So one day I worked up the courage to go into this park and engage my new neighbor about the census, which I managed to have a fairly normal conversation, about as normal as you can have with a stranger in a park talking about the 2020 census. So I was able to talk to Tim about what were his perceptions of the census. What did he think the challenges would be given what the census is? And he was able to confirm a lot of the stories that I had been told from our awesome stakeholders at Census, Crystal Miller and Claudel Parchment, about the transient nature of these populations. Jorge talked about the distrust that a lot of people have towards government officials, government programs, and there's also this lack of understanding about what the census is and the impact that it can have. One of the taglines for the 2020 census is how America knows what America needs. And that is so important for this homeless community. This census shapes policy, it shapes our funding, it shapes what resources we allocate to different demographics, and how we can help members of the community experiencing homelessness reach self-sufficiency. So to provide some context about the environment that we're working in, we have HUD information, so Department of Housing and Urban Development, And we only have 2018 data. The 2019 data is really close to being published, but we have 2018 right now. And what we know is there is 500,000 Americans that were counted one night in January that were experiencing homelessness. Okay, and this number is an undercount because there is no way we are going to count every single person in one night and find those people. And then HUD also has a certain definition of what homelessness is. So if your definition differs, you might include more people in that definition. But what we're able to see with this HUD data is since 2010, from these point-in-time counts, we've seen a decrease in the number of homeless people, a fairly significant one. And then over the past 2 years, that number has slightly plateaued. Okay. And so in talking with Census, we said, what is your greatest fear about this upcoming census? And they said, knowing all of the locations. And if you look at that last stat, 1/3 of unsheltered of people are living in unsheltered locations. And those locations live in the minds of community partners. So part of what we built in our tool was the ability to collect locations from community partners and leverage that data that they have in their minds so that way we can have a complete count. We're also taking in public data sets from HUD and from Open 990, which is an IRS subset. And so we can take all those known soup kitchens, those shelter locations, and ingest those automatically into our system. We then created a way to visualize that data for census employees, so that way, as they are working in their specific area census offices, they can see what locations belong to their area and compare it against what exists in census systems and add or update as necessary. So stopping here with community counts, that is the name of our tool. We feel like it resonates with the mission and purpose of what we were trying to achieve. And with community counts, we are grabbing information from our community partners. We are leveraging existing data, and we are kind of reinforcing that idea of every single member of our community matters and deserves to be counted, and we should all share that same prosperity that Scott Turner was talking about earlier. So come join us at the community counts table. So.
Hi, I am Kristen Safdie from Motivf.
And I'm Jaymes Cloninger. All right. So our focus for our team was the complete count committees. As we talk to complete count committees across America, the groups that are trying to reinforce in their communities that everyone is counted, the major issue that we heard was trust. We actually heard from one CCC leader that they know that trust is the major factor in communities not doing the census, or at least 7 of the hard to count communities. And they said, we can't do anything about it, so we're working around it. We thought, how do other organizations do this? So we looked at multinationals that also are engaged in these communities. And the Edelman Trust Barometer shows that with many of the hard-to-count communities, they trust corporations more than government. So we looked at what corporations were doing to gain trust and attention of these communities. We looked at the National Advisory Committee on Hard-to-Count Populations and their recommendations, and 2 of those were in this area of trying to get more granularity around the population based on language. But they didn't go as far as culture. They didn't go beyond language. So with our partner Hofstede Insights from Finland, who has a data set that they've recently built. It's a multi-million-dollar data set for some multinational corporations. We were able to use what basically Coca-Cola would use to reach out to a hard-to-count community. And it's segmentable, as you can see, by ethnicity, language, income, education, age, and gender. And we specifically wanted to see if we could target subcultures in the US using the same tools that multinationals do. So this is just one kind of comparison of 9 dimensions available in this data set. And in this case, we're only looking at 2, the kind of curious to comfort dimension, anxious to stable. And you can see within the Spanish-speaking countries represented here, Puerto Rico, Venezuela, Colombia, Mexico, Argentina, there's a big diversity in terms of how a multinational would approach them in terms of the speed and delivery and whether it's positive or negative messaging. An example for census might be of a positive message: if you take the census, this is what your community will get. A more negative message would be: if you don't take the census, this is what your community will miss out on.
Okay. So an example of how we did this, and we were working with the census recruiting. That's language that's been vetted, it's been translated. So this is an example. On the left, you see the census language. On the right, you see the language that we tailored more for an Argentinian audience. You can see that it's much shorter, that it talks about improvement. You may not be able to read it. You can read it, the translation at our booth if you want. But it talks more about improvement because, as you saw, the Argentinian population in general valued more of comforting them about how things will get better. So we did that with the messaging. We showed expertise. That was another thing that the data set showed that would be effective. And then we had informative, straightforward text. One of the things we learned is through the data set is that when you're speaking with or messaging to an Argentinian population, you don't want fluff because you'll lose trust very quickly. So this is one example. We have a lot more at our booth. If you want to look, I'm going to click through just for the next person. That's Puerto Rican, if Jorge wants to join us. But we hope to see you later and talk about this a little bit more.
Good afternoon. My name is Nathan Zencey. I am an applied data scientist with Civis Analytics. We are a data science company, and the product we produced for this sprint is the Census Intelligence Center. That's the laser pointer. There we go. That's not our slide. Okay. There we go. The Census Intelligence Center is a product that allows you to find and reach your hard-to-count audiences, and importantly, to test the best messages for reaching out to them. And Civis really thinks of census like really any other outreach campaign. You need to understand your population. You need to determine why or why not they would take a certain action. You need to test what messages can change those attitudes. And then finally, you need to activate. You need to put your plan into practice. And so I want to take you through a few features of Census Intelligence Center here, and I want to do it through the eyes of a hypothetical user. And we can just call her Victoria. And Victoria is a census get-out-the-count planner at a large county or city. And really, Victoria is just a composite. She's a composite of user profiles that we developed during our user research for this product. So the very first thing that Victoria does here is uses the filters tool to build herself a custom audience. And she knows from her domain knowledge that predominantly Spanish-speaking census tracts are going to be very important for her outreach. Once she has selected this custom audience, she can also toggle through here and view the distribution by, say, rental housing units or other important characteristics. And then finally, she saves it here for further analysis. So map is all good and well, but Victoria now wants some more granular analysis. So she flips over to the demographics tab here, and this is what allows her to compare her custom audience she's just created to, in this case, Harris County, Texas overall, where she's working. And this is what allows her to start to tease out some of the key differences in, say, age, household mobility, housing density, that are going to help understand what makes her audience unique and plan the mediums and outreach channels for her messages and for her outreach campaign. Victoria also knows that her audience is not a monolith, even within this custom audience she's just created. And Census Intelligence Center allows you to make these track-by-track comparisons within your custom audience. In this case, Victoria sees that there are very significant differences in, say, the percentage of rental units and the percentage of the population below the poverty level. And so this is another level of granularity that allows her to start thinking about track-by-track differences in outreach. And then finally, there's the heart of the matter. And this is scientifically testing the best message to reach this custom audience. And the great thing about Census Intelligence Center is that it incorporates seamlessly with Civis Creative Focus, which uses the gold standard of randomized control trials to test messages. And so in Victoria's case, she sees the civic duty message is very likely to do well, whereas hypothetically, a message about data security and privacy has a probability of causing backlash. And then finally, Victoria is able to activate. She is able to go and use the finalize audience feature to save her audience and export it. In her case, she's going to choose to use a flat file here, but really it can be configured to any sort of data format. And now she is able to rank her tracks by the percentage of hard to count and other demographics. Thank you very much. We really enjoyed this sprint, and we hope to see you at our booth.
Thank you so much. Now I'm actually going to talk to you a little bit about some of our own internal innovation at the Census Open Innovation Labs. So I'm the director of an initiative called Census Accelerate. And Census Accelerate is about community-driven and user-generated content because we know that there's all sorts of trusted voices in the communities, whether they're community-based organizations, national organizations, whether they're celebrities. We want to make sure that they have the right information to get the word out and that they're equipped to actually spread the word online. Oh, it's not working. That's supposed to be a GIF. Okay. So these are kind of four major pillars of this initiative. One is called Creatives for the Count. This is an in-person sprint where we bring together lots of creatives and organizations, and they create a ton of content ranging from posters to memes to GIFs. It's a really fun, active day. We work closely with the entertainment and media industries to make sure that the census is being talked about in pop culture. We work with large brands to get them to talk about census to their consumers and their employees. And then finally, we're piloting a new program called Creative Ambassadors, where we're matching the skills of creatives with needs from local community organizations. And this is done virtually. They don't have to be in person to help these organizations make content. So I'm going to talk a little bit about Creatives for the Count, that in-person event I just referenced. So we bring together national and community partners alongside storytellers, designers, copywriters, influencers, and others, because the community partners really need content. A lot of them tell us that, while they're doing a lot of really important boots-on-the-ground efforts, they don't have much capacity to get creative or to develop digital content. Many of them don't necessarily know how to do it, or if they do know how to do it, they just don't have the team or the right skill sets to do it. And then we also hear from creatives that they're hungry to help. They want to help support civic engagement, and they want to do something. And so we match those different groups together in order to create stronger messages, stronger messengers, and more communities counted. So this is about supplementing the official Census Bureau campaign, which you're going to see hitting airwaves and screens pretty soon. We're supplementing it with messages from community members themselves. So far, we've run about 15 events across the country, ranging from Portland, Washington, D.C., Nashville, El Paso, L.A., and many more. And we're building a movement to get out the count. We have created a number of tools to help scale up this model across the country. And I want to put a call out for all of you who want to support the 2020 census and through this type of work. Host your own Create-a-thon event. We just developed a brand new toolkit that walks you through step-by-step how to do that. Make some content. If you're creative, or even if you're not creative and you just know how to make memes, make some memes. And you can upload it to a new content repository that was built by our partners at Rock the Vote and U Group. It's at creativesforthecount.org, and anybody can upload their own census content there, and they can also download it. It's all open source. If you're part of a grassroots organization or a national advocacy group, tell us what content would be helpful to you. If you're really in need of content, let us know, and then we could put a call out to our creatives who can help respond to those calls for content. We're also building a rapid response network when mis and disinformation gets out there in order to respond with positive and accurate messages. So if you're creative, please help support grassroots organizations and national advocacy groups who are already doing that census outreach in hard-to-count communities by bringing your creativity, your talent, and your networks to them. Some resources that we can provide to you. We have a census message guidance for content creators. We have a Create-a-thon toolkit that's at accelerate.census.gov, just launched yesterday. Very excited about that. And you can learn more about Census Accelerate there as well. And again, the content repository is at creativesforthecount.org. Quick examples of content from Create-a-thons. Okay, it's working now. These are supposed to be Snapchat filters. This came from our El Paso event. This was from our LGBTQ event in Washington, D.C. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mara, and thank you so much to all the 2020 Census Sprint teams. It's been really exciting to work with all of you. For the 2020 Census Sprint, there's just a sense of urgency with the products that there hasn't been for any other sprint, because this is happening really soon, and we're excited to see all of these products deployed in communities. And part of what we hope to accomplish in live demos and at our follow-up event tomorrow, which we'll say more about, is to make sure that we're building those connections between communities in the room and people who think they can actually deploy these products. So we are going to take a shorter break now, so don't stray too far. We would just suggest that you maybe get up, stretch your legs, and actually would ask everybody to think about what has been your favorite product so far and post something on social media with #OpportunityProject. So we will return in about 5 to 6 minutes. You've just heard from many of the teams from our sprints this year who focused on investing in the American workforce and innovating the 2020 census. And now we are going to turn the lens inward a little bit and talk about the ways that we are innovating to help and spread these ways of working all across government and industry. And so there's 3 things that we'll talk about. The first of those is going to be about a data curation hub that we have launched today on our website. You can find it at opportunity.census.gov/data. It was built and designed by my 2 incredible teammates who you're about to hear from, who will tell you why we did this, how it works, how you can use it. But the idea is that through the Opportunity Project, we bring human expertise on data to light to help people build useful tools. And we want to make that available not just to a few people in our sprints, but to anyone who's trying to solve problems with data and coming across the problem that finding the data you need is really hard, especially when you're digging through the masses of federal open data. So we'll talk about a solution that we've built that's available to you as of today. The second thing that we'll talk about is our digital toolkit, which is another online resource that people in the audience today from the Department of Health and Human Services and Veterans Affairs have leveraged to adopt the Opportunity Project process on their own. So outside of our sprints, they have taken our toolkit and they have designed their own sprints, and they have created even more products to help veterans and serve people in need of healthcare and more. So we'll hear from an innovator at VA who's leading that work. We'll actually hear from an incredible team of high school students who have built an awesome open source tech product. We're really excited to hear them. And then finally, we have relaunched a human-centered design training at the Census Bureau, with the idea being we don't want to have a few people at the Census Bureau who work in open and creative and innovative ways. We want everyone to know how to do that. And so we are training managers here and helping to spread that across government. So we'll hear from 3 people about that. So with that, I'm really excited to turn it over to Ivan Metzger and Anna Wong from Census Open Innovation Labs.
Hi everyone, my name is Ivan Metzger. I'm the head of design and a strategic advisor with the Census Open Innovation Labs. We're excited to tell you more about something we built to democratize the insights that emerge through the cross-sector collaboration we undertake through TOP. The problem we're tackling isn't novel. People struggle to find suitable data that's relevant, and fit for use and relevant to the problem at hand. They get mired in searching for what they need and are often overwhelmed, missing crucial opportunities to translate data into impact. As a result, data-driven innovation takes longer to reach the people who need it most and need it soon. The challenge is even greater in the federal government. And could you click it? 250,000. That's the number of data sets on data.gov. While all of that data represents an enormous opportunity, we've found through TOP that users crave a waypoint. They crave guidance from the people who know the data best. TOP participants get that. We connect them to fantastic data stewards like Andy Haight here at the Bureau, who help teams make sense of federal data and point them to the best available data sets for what they're trying to do. And in the past, we've basically summarized their recommendations and their insights in a Google Doc, and that's privately shared with the cohort. And with their help, TOP cohorts arrive at invaluable answers to questions many other data innovators undoubtedly have about where they can find suitable data for solving specific problems. And we realized it's imperative to share those insights with everyone. And to that end, we built a lightweight solution that my colleague will walk us through to expose those insights.
Thanks, Ivan. Hi, my name is Anna Wong. I'm a UX designer and engineer at the Census Open Innovation Labs. And today, we really want to present to you curated data sets brought to you by the Opportunity Project. And this is a place where data users can kickstart their data discovery based on specific challenges like workforce challenges and geospatial challenges. This is a place where data users can search for the data they need based on the problem that they're trying to solve and search for the data they need. More importantly, this is a place where data users, any data user, not just those in the Opportunity Project, can get their questions answered from experts on those data sets, like Andy Haight at the Census Bureau. So what does this mean? This means that data discovery doesn't have to start with over 250,000 unvetted data sets. It can start with 57 that are recommended by experts and test-driven by tech teams in industry. Today, we've released these curated data sets as a beta version. So we recommend any feedback or recommendations you might have. In future releases, we're planning to incorporate more of those human insights for each of those data sets and also include more data sets and more challenges. So like Drew mentioned earlier, you can see it at opportunity.census.gov/data, and be sure to say hi to us at the live demo later. Thank you so much.
All right, thanks, team. And next, to talk more about the toolkit sprints that have been going on at the Department of Veterans Affairs, we welcome Larry Connell, who is the Chief of Staff of the Veterans Health Administration. Okay, so I think we may be waiting on Larry a moment. So I think we'll have Girls Computing League come up and speak to us about their awesome tech. So we'll go ahead and do that. I just want to mention also that when we get to live demos, the data hub, the data curation hub, will be available to demo. We would love for everyone to come check it out, click through, give us your suggestions, and also want to shout out the team from the White House who started this project with the job kit. It was an initial concept that helped to translate all of this into a larger number of curated data sets. So we're excited to see that grow. And with that, I will turn it over to, please give a great, very enthusiastic round of applause to the 3 high school students presenting today from Girls Computing League.
Hey everyone, my name is Niyant Kaparapu.
I'm Shrija.
And I'm Ethan. And together we're here as part of the Girls Computing League team that participated in the Veteran Affairs AI Tech Sprint.
Girls Computing League is a nonprofit organization dedicated towards increasing computer science education for everyone. Girls Computing League hosts multiple events such as artificial intelligence summits, workshops, and more directed for students who are interested in computer science and want to pursue a career in computer science. As a part of the technology boom, Girls Computing League has a completely student-driven team that uses cutting-edge technology such as artificial intelligence and natural language processing.
The problem that our clinical trial selector aims to solve is that people are dying. According to a study in 2013, people are dying because of the long times that they have to wait to find clinical trials that they are eligible for. There are 9 million veterans serviced by the VA and 50 million beneficiaries serviced by CMS, and they cannot find clinical trials that they need. And so we want to understand their conditions so that we give them the best opportunity that they have to find clinical trials that they need. But we don't want to put them through the rough medical jargon that only doctors will be able to understand. And because of this, there's no simple way to find eligible clinical trials for people, and because of this, clinical trials have declined in interest.
So to combat this decline in interest in clinical trials, we found a way to create a web application that only requires users to log in using their government-issued accounts. And the user has to input no further information. We extract data from databases, including demographic information, disease conditions they may have, and laboratory results to find eligible clinical trials. Here you can see an example of a CMS beneficiary that found 3 clinical trials for the one condition that they had of insomnia. Now, these patients might have a slight understanding of what symptoms they may face or what diseases they may have, like, for instance, if a patient is diabetic, but they might not know the specific disease codes that are associated. So, for instance, if a patient is diabetic, they might not know that they also have diabetic retinopathy. So we hope to extract all of that information and present it in a very easy-to-use interface. And now, if a patient wants to see more information about a specific clinical trial, they can, including the summary, the principal investigator, and personally what I find the most important is locations of the clinical trial. If a patient wants to find the closest clinical trial hub to them, they can find the address, they can find more information about the specific location, and hopefully contact the principal investigator for more information to eventually join the clinical trial. So the biggest boundary for patients to join these clinical trials and find whether or not they're eligible is the vast amount of unstructured eligibility criteria that they have to process to find clinical trials they're eligible for. So this application actually runs on natural language processing tools that are able to take those unstructured eligibility criteria and process them in a way that's easier for not only us to understand, but for patients to understand. Our goal was to create an application that has as minimal boundaries as possible so that not only will patients find the care they need, but also drug companies and other organizations can start to make life-saving medicine that can go through clinical trials as easily as possible. So through the development of this application, we've partnered with Amazon Web Services and Oracle, and they have provided us with a tremendous amount of technical and logistical support. Our natural language processing actually runs on Amazon Web Services' Comprehend Medical tool. And we also want to give a big shout out to the Veterans Affairs and specifically their AI tech sprint. The collaboration and ecosystem that we had through multiple organizations and people was life-changing. We got to talk to veterans who gave us their personal story, and that really showed us that our application needs to be as patient-centered as possible. So thank you again, not only to the Veterans Affairs Administration, but to the top organization for giving us this opportunity.
All right, thank you so much. And with that brief change in the run of show, we will turn it over to Larry Connell, the Chief of Staff of the Veterans Health Administration, who represents the team from the Department of Veterans Affairs who have leveraged the Opportunity Project Toolkit to create a really incredible sprint around using artificial intelligence to support veterans and their healthcare needs. So thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Connell.
How's everybody doing? So you don't want to be the guy after lunch because I'm sure all of you got the Z-Monster hovering on your shoulder. So everybody got coffee, and anybody need to stand up and stretch or anything like that? Anybody paying attention? All right. Hey, so thanks for inviting me to this. I'm Larry Connell. I'm the Chief of Staff of the Veterans Health Administration. I just barely made it in here. I was trying to get through your crack security, which I found amusing because earlier, I'm in the VA, and I had to go to the Veterans Benefits Administration, which is part of the VA, and I had to go through their security as well. And I thought to myself, boy, wouldn't it be a cool AI project to let all these security guys know that we're all government people and we can all come into these buildings without having to go to security? But that might be a tall order. Nonetheless, thanks for inviting me. Again, I'm Larry Connell. I'm the VHA Chief of Staff. And for those of you who aren't familiar with the VA and how it works, Department of Veterans Affairs, that they're in 810 Vermont Avenue, is where the secretary sits. But underneath the VA, you've got the three main pillars. And I apologize if you already know this, but you got Veterans Health, which is I'm the Chief of Staff of. And really, when you talk VA, you're really talking VHA. You've also got Veterans Benefits, and you got National Cemetery. So those three major pillars, each one of them has an undersecretary. I work for Dr. Richard Stone, a great American, who's the executive in charge of the Veterans Health Administration. Do I have any slides or no? Anybody know the answer to that? I was up here and do a tap sheet, right? I thought I saw a slide that talked about the number of veterans we have enrolled. Is there one right after this? If there's not, no big deal. I'll just give you a quick 101 on what the VA is all about, or VHA. So of the roughly 390,000 employees in the VA, Veterans Health has about 350,000 of those. So we got the lion's share of the employees. We have 172 to 174, depending on who you talk to, medical centers scattered throughout the country, and 1,200 clinics with 9 million veterans enrolled to the Veterans Health Administration, or the VA. We are the largest integrated healthcare system in the country. We had an $84 billion budget, so it's a big budget, and I'll get into some of the cool things we're doing. And so I know a lot of you are really confused right now, going, okay, I got it, we're doing AI. What's this guy from Veterans Health up here talking about? Stay with me. I'll get it all together and make it easy to understand. Because I, too, had the same question 2 days ago. Why am I coming to address you guys? And they said, hang on, we'll get it all together and you'll understand. So with that, I think I got about 4 minutes to quickly talk about some of the things we're doing in VHA. If you don't know, today we have 22 million veterans in America, of which 9 million enrolled. But if you roll back over all the years, we've had veterans enrolled into the Veterans Health Administration. As you can imagine, we have the largest genomic knowledge base in the world linked to healthcare information. That's some pretty valuable data. That's real valuable data. We have the largest data set for healthcare probably on the planet. And it continues to grow every day. And a lot of people want our data. The problem I have as the chief of staff, and here's where you guys can help me, I'm literally drowning in data, but I'm starved for information. Does that make sense? I got so much data, I don't know, I've only got 2 minutes already? Holy cow, that went by fast. Okay, so anyway, this is where AI can really help, not just the VA, but any department. So real quick, I'll blow through this real quick. We have a huge research mission at the VA. We've got about $2 billion in federally funded research and another $2 billion in other sources of revenue for research. Part of our research is where I'm going to tie it together now. All of a sudden the light bulb will go off, is the National Artificial Intelligence Institute, NAII. So that's where VHA comes in. And so we work on large-scale AI R&D initiatives, national AI policy, and partnerships. This is a joint initiative by the Office of Research and Development, which is chaired by Rachel Ramoni, another great American. She runs my research department. And the Office of the Secretary Center for Strategic Partnerships is Deborah Shear. Is she out here today? Deb's another great American. She does some great stuff with our partnerships and government. If you haven't seen the T-Mobile commercial with VA, pretty powerful commercial. She's worked with T-Mobile to try and get veterans free data anytime they connect to the VA. Really cool stuff. So our goal is with the tech sprints. They're very time-limited engagements, as I'm sure you know, designed to foster collaboration with industry and our academic partners, which VHA has many. So what we want to do is we want to design AI-enabled tools that leverage federal data to address the societal need for veterans. Real quick, I want to talk about one in particular, the recent AI tech sprint this summer, which was focused on clinical trial matching, experimental therapeutics, and precision oncology. Let me tell you, we've got some really cool stuff going on in precision oncology, some real encouraging. Wow, stop already. My goodness. Let me just say this, all right? Give me one more minute. We've got some really encouraging stuff going on in precision oncology, real encouraging, where I don't want to get ahead of my skis or get ahead of the secretary or anything like that, but watch what's going to happen in the future with VHA, with precision oncology. In fact, I jokingly told my staff, if only the VA were a publicly traded company, I could buy the stock today and be a millionaire. Unfortunately, we're not, so there'll be no stock, but there's some real encouraging news coming out in the world of oncology, precision oncology in particular. One of our priorities is to become a learning organization. Dr. Stone has 3 priorities. One is to rebuild the trust of the veterans. The other one is to modernize our system. And it's part of becoming a learning organization where AI comes in and helps us with those AI initiatives. So with that, I hope I didn't bore you to death. I can't believe that was 6 minutes. I want to thank you all for your hard work. I look forward to working with all of you in the future, and good luck with this conference. So thanks. I don't like you anymore. I'm only messing with you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Lorena Molina Irizarry. I'm the Director of Operations with the Census Open Innovation Labs. And as exemplified by the Opportunity Project and all that we do here at the Census Open Innovation Labs, putting the needs of humans first and the people that we serve is vital to keeping up with the pace of change. Staying relevant in an ever-changing competitive landscape where not only technology and processes are evolving at an exponential rate, but where the immediacy and access to data and information are not just an expectation, it's the new normal. We all know data is the new currency. It shapes businesses, it moves the economy, it runs Wall Street. It provides opportunities for growth in all aspects of our society, and it even helps save lives. Placing user needs at the center of our mission is no longer a nice to have, or even a best practice. It's just critical. So in order to be successful, we need to understand who we serve, understand the way they think, the way they feel, their pain points, why they do the things they do, see challenges and problems through their lens, and open up the conversation between us delivering a product or service and the consumers of our data. We need to humanize data consumption and ask ourselves, how might we more often? So as a quick show of hands, how many of you have heard about the term human-centered design or design thinking? Awesome. How many of you implement HCD on your day-to-day work and practice it regularly with your teams or projects? Okay, that's a smaller group. So what if your conference rooms look more like this? Imagine if you could extract all the ideas in people's minds, in your teams, and converge them to uncover possibilities and solutions to a given problem. So being user-centric has catalyzed inspiring, intuitive, and groundbreaking products and services that have disrupted industries. They have placed value on not just traditional customer feedback, but in a way, it has blurred the lines and expanded the space for cross-collaboration and for co-creating across all industries and sectors in totally new ways. An evidence-based, rigorous approach to innovation and change. It involves empathy, being iterative, failing often, which we don't usually do in government, and learning along the way. It's all about understanding these complexities by problem solving in new and creative ways. And this is the core of innovation. Bridging the technical, the human, and the business aspects to find solutions to new challenges. So we need to put the people first to create these products and services that are not just more useful, but actually usable. Research has shown that being user-centric leads to better outcomes, cost savings, and better engagement, and increasingly in the government sector. And yes, it is important to create transparency and hold us accountable. But most importantly, it enhances how people experience government interactions and services in their daily lives. It directly impacts trust and confidence in our institutions. So to achieve these, we need to accept that change is hard, and changing organizational culture, as you very well know, it's even harder. It's a process. We need to look inward, and we need to assess our own capacity to be human-centric ourselves. And that's why we have shifted inward in applying innovation methods here at the Census Bureau to address simple but important aspects of what constitutes the largest statistical agency in this country. And that's our workforce, our employees, the people that show up to work every day. So of course, every workplace aims to develop the skill sets needed to help stay relevant as work changes, to accelerate growth, to upskill our teams, to empower our employees, to ultimately better serve the people, and that all starts with the employee experience, with bringing our full selves to work every day. So next year will be my 10-year anniversary at the Census Bureau, so I've seen firsthand what it means to people when their ideas are heard, when collaboration brings forth a new and improved way to do business, when people feel they're part of a team, when one little tweak in a process or one little change in a program makes it more streamlined, it increases efficiency and communication across the board. When teams successfully work across silos and see their work as a reflection of themselves, and that has impact to the larger organization, it does impact the bottom line. And our bottom line is being the nation's leading provider of quality data about our people and economy. So companies and the private sector have to constantly figure out how to be the best to stay relevant. And in government, we could do it the way we've always done it, but are we actually being competitive? Most Americans don't think about federal government every day, but when they need government services, they expect it to work. So we're overwhelmed with technology and a constant flood of information. So this do more with less mentality, increasing operational efficiency and being more streamlined. It's a reality that our workforce sees every day. So at the macro level, you might ask yourself, government doesn't have the same level of competition and the bottom line incentives as industry, so we sometimes don't have the same pressure to innovate. It can be easy to fall into the trap of doing things the same way as we've always done them. So this year, we've launched our human-centered design training course. This time, we decided to focus first on managers and supervisors, the folks in the middle ground that do understand what breaks and when, and what it takes to fix it, but are also empowered to make decisions and make change happen and lead other change makers along the way. So in this third cohort of our program, instead of teaching human-centered design with an outward lens, we put the employee experience at the center. Being seen, heard, and valued is as important to the core of the work that we do as our processes and systems and data products. It all starts and ends with our human capital. So they practice building and testing what works based on direct person-to-person research and not based on assumptions. You're about to hear from two of the teams that are looking to reshape the employee experience at the Census Bureau. They did the work firsthand, conducted research, engaged in ideation, and are on their way to testing and implementing what they learn and their solutions. From cross-communication and coordination with subject matter experts across the enterprise and communicating with our employees, to reimagining the support and services for new moms at the Census Bureau, I am happy to welcome Gina Wolenko and Sarah Konya to the stage to talk a bit more about what they learned through their human-centered design experience at the Census Bureau.
Hi, I'm Gina. Can you hear me? And this is Sarah. And so as you just heard from Lorena, Sarah and I participated in the human-centered design training here at the Census Bureau. And the topic was, how can we support the Census Bureau employee experience? How can we better improve it to support innovation? So quick show of hands first. Who here has ever been a new mom who's had to return to work after having a baby? Okay, keep your hands up. Who has had to support a new mom who's returned to work after having a baby? Okay, so we're going to talk about something that does affect a lot of us. So I already showed this. You guys are supposed to go, aw. But Sarah and I are relatively new moms, and we know that the transition back to work is hard. You have these super cute babies, but they keep you up at night. They wake you up like 5,000, what feels like 5,000 times. You're super tired going back to work. You have to take them to what feels like 100 doctor's appointments. So, but you've maybe used up all of your leave or used up a lot of your leave, and you can't be away from them for more than 3 hours at a time without breastfeeding them or without pumping. It's a challenge. So we decided to focus our class project on how to better support new moms who are returning back to work at the Census Bureau. So we interviewed 6 different people here at the Census Bureau. We interviewed new moms, but we also interviewed people here who are in the position to support new moms. And we heard quite a few unique things, but we also heard one overarching theme. The resources that we have here to support continuing the breastfeeding experience could probably use some updating. And you know, as a new moms here probably know, but others might not, that really within like the first hour, even really the first minute of the baby being born, we're bombarded by messaging about the importance of breastfeeding. But then when we return to work, we don't necessarily talk about it. So one of our new moms said, I had a lot of meetings which made pumping difficult. I had to find times around meetings and it was hard to schedule. People were not understanding about the times I blocked my calendar so I could pump. I found it so challenging that I ended up stopping. We need a better structure with pumping. Who's it geared for? Not managers. And this is a huge bummer, right? Because, I mean, one thing I love about working at the Census Bureau is people are so nice. They really want what's best, not just for their own babies, but for their coworkers' babies.
So we utilized the tools that we learned in the human-centered design training, and the first thing we did was we coded the data that we got from the interviews into positives, negatives, and opportunities. We took that coded data and we grouped it into similar themes. We heard a lot about the importance of flexible work schedules and the difficulties that came with pumping and going to a mother's room during the day. Then we brainstormed ideas that we felt could help solve some of those problems that we had heard about. And we took the approach as if we were Google or Apple, so the sky was the limit with some of the ideas that we came up with. Then we took the ideas that we felt that best solved some of the problems that we had heard about, and we decided to move forward with those. And that's why we're prototyping and demoing this message here today, which is a BOC broadcast message with a list of resources that we recommend that the Census Bureau should pursue in order to help the new moms experience. So these resources include a new training in the CLC, which is our online training center. This would be geared toward managers so they can understand what to expect whenever new moms are getting ready to go on leave, are on leave, and returning from leave. A new pumping facility in the blue area of the Census Bureau, as well as an updated pumping facility down in the red section in the health unit. A biannual lunch and learn where we talk about these resources with new moms and expecting moms. And finally, a central website where all this information is in one place. So come to our booth, vote for the ideas that you like the best, and if you think that you can help us with some of these ideas, we'd love to hear that as well. So thank you.
Hi, I'm Nicole Watley from AdCom, the Communications Directorate here at the Census. This is Haley Ashcom and Elisa Bonner from the Office of Congressional Affairs and Intergovernmental Affairs. We're going to present our human-centered design approach to improving information sharing and information sharing collaboration within organizations. Raise your hand if you have a general understanding of information sharing and collaboration. To add to that general knowledge, compared to 2 decades ago, the time managers and employees spend on collaborative activities has ballooned by 50% or more. 73% believe their organization would be more successful if employees were able to work in more flexible and collaborative ways. I think the census leads in flexibility in the work environment. However, our case study suggests there's room for improvement in information sharing and collaboration. Does that make you say, We anticipate by the end of our presentation, you'll say, This information and our findings support our assumption that information sharing and collaboration offer the opportunity to improve the employee experience. The human-centered design approach allowed us to explicitly understand how to create a solution specifically for these issues. Alyssa and Haley will share with you information about our process for remedying.
So the Census Bureau is a massive federal agency. We have our headquarters in Washington, D.C., our National Processing Center in Jeffersonville, Indiana, and 6 regional offices all around the country. So whether or not you are from the private sector, public sector, large organization, small organization, you understand that this represents a massive network with a ton of different people that all have specific roles and specific organizations that you can relate to. So within all of these roles, there are so many opportunities for collaboration, creation, design, and new opportunities that we can learn by working together. Of course, with our approach to human-centered design, we couldn't do this on a massive scale, so we had to start here at Census headquarters to prototype an idea. We looked specifically in the Communications Directorate, in which the 3 of us are a part of, and then we looked at some of the subject matter experts from around the Bureau that work in different ways that can collaborate with the Communications Directorate. We went directly to those subject matter experts and those staff from our Communications AdCom Directorate so that we could hear specifically what their employee experiences was like. best practices when it comes to collaboration, maybe new opportunities for collaboration, coordination, and really, as human-centered design goes, the process was to get the information directly from them, to get the ideas from them, the challenges from them, to discover new opportunities that can best suit everybody's needs. What we learned is that, for the most part, people don't have the mindset of if it's broke, don't fix it. People do want to start new collaborative, innovative processes within the Bureau. A lot of them, though, don't feel that they have the bandwidth. They have a certain job that they have to do, and day in and day out, they're spending all of their time working on doing that job, and maybe don't just have that time to go ahead and explore new ideas. There's also a problem of empowerment, that some of them do not feel empowered to try to implement these new ideas or these new creative processes. So as stewards and ambassadors for human-centered design, we wanted to come up with a solution that they can hope to solve these problems.
We propose a quarterly summit that brings together subject matter experts and support staff. They would use human-centered design principles to work together to review current products and to identify opportunities for new products. For example, the staff of the Congressional Affairs Office might work with subject matter experts to identify products that meet the data needs of Congress. Using human-centered design principles will allow staff to be constantly engaged in every stage of the development process and have a greater influence on the end product to ensure that we meet the end needs of the end user. This would this would empower subject matter experts and to be and help them to be more creative and greatly improve employee satisfaction here at the Census Bureau, which is what we found during our study is what they desire is to be more creative, to be more empowered, and to be more engaged. We encourage you to come by our table 26, and learn more about our project and share your ideas. Thank you.
Thank you so much. This has been a really exciting showcase of our internally focused innovation projects. This day, of course, is about the Opportunity Project, but again, going back to the beginning of the day, this is really a convening of innovators and people who are dedicated to doing more for the American people with open data and technology. So thank you so much again to the teams who are applying these methods internally. When we can do better for ourselves and employees at our own agency, we can serve the public better. So it's really significant that they're doing this. And I now want to introduce our final, one of our final speakers, and we are thrilled to have her with us, Suzette Kent, who's the Federal Chief Information Officer. Of course, you can imagine that having a Federal Chief Information Officer is critical to the success of the Opportunity Project and helping to advance open data initiatives across government. So briefly, Suzette has been the Federal Chief Information Officer since January 2018, and before that, she spent over 29 years in the financial services and consulting industry, where she was a principal at EY, a partner at Accenture, consulting president at Carricker Corporation, and managing director at JP Morgan. So she's been a leader in industry and in government, and we're thrilled to have her here to talk about how the Opportunity Project is working towards the President's Management Agenda and the federal data strategy. So thank you so much, Suzette.
Thank you. Hi, good afternoon. Okay, I came here to celebrate. So I hope you've had a fantastic day. And it's always funny when you listen to somebody read your own bio about the things that you have done. I hope you heard one message in there. Done a lot of things where data, human-centered design, understanding what services you're delivering to your end customer are of the utmost importance. And that's part of the reason I am thrilled to be here. I actually have to say thank you to Deputy Secretary Kelly for asking me to come. And I want to share, not only am I excited about the work that's being done, but I also thank her as one of the leaders of the federal data strategy, where not only does she bring her personal passion and interest and the expertise of commerce and census, but as we see across the Opportunity Project, she challenges her partners and her peers across all the federal agencies to improve how we use data and how we deliver on mission, how we deliver on service. And so when we talk about the President's management agenda and the things that are critical, the second goal is about better use of data across the federal government. It's been one of the most exciting things, not only the act of creating the federal data strategy, but the outcomes in the process. It's one of the things where we have had collaboration across all of the agencies, kind of like this effort today. You have representatives across all the projects from so many different agencies. And this is an example in the Opportunity Project for the things that we should aspire to do on behalf of our citizens, because it represents a combination of deep and passionate experts from agencies, but collaboration between federal, state, local, tribal, our industry partners, academia, advocacy groups, and others to solve problems in ways that are challenging and more innovative. And that's the reason I think about today as a celebration. Because the Opportunity Project gives us the purpose, the frame, and the way to get those groups together to be innovative, to talk about the challenges that you've just been hearing from the lightning talks, and ask ourselves how we can do better. And that's a key framing of the President's management agenda across many different spectrums of how do we better achieve mission of every agency, how do we better provide service to American citizens, and how are we ensuring that we're stewards of taxpayer money. And everyone in this room, I have to also say thank you. And I'm excited to celebrate the winners with Dr. Jarman, but I'm more excited by how many participants there were and how many fantastic ideas. Those are the things that we see in the proof points, that we see in the data strategy. And this work is what we want to scale going forward. The exciting things that you saw, we started here, but we did this thing, and where can it go? Those ideas and the passion that the teams bring are what makes today an important celebration. And it makes the partnership and the thought process very important as we look to expand the federal data strategy. There's a set of activities that we're going to be focusing on for next year, and it's taking some of the great ideas like we're going to celebrate today and looking at how those things become more impactful in individual agency missions, but also more broadly across the federal government, and particularly those of you who are here at Census are aware of how valuable federal data is in almost every problem that we're trying to solve inside the government. But as we do that, the disciplines of how we share, how we protect privacy, and how we hold the purpose for what the data was intended, how we hold that secure, is the really interesting challenge. And so that's why collaboration like these projects demonstrate are fantastic. That's why the experiences, both the fantastic results you've delivered, but also some of those things where you say, I saw before, could we fix this? Should we do this better? How can we? And raising and elevating those questions as well is how we actually scale, how we deliver for the future, and how we collectively can deliver on a government that is powered by data, transparency to the American citizens, but delivering on the unique missions of every agency. So I am very honored to be here. I'm honored to celebrate every one of the projects, but particularly the winners in each of the categories. And I hope that each of you in the conversations today take things back, and you use that to accelerate as well. The Opportunity Project was one of the most important accelerators inside federal government. So what happened this year is fantastic, and what will continue to go forward is of critical importance. So thank you for not only the foundational work, thank you for what we're going to do after today. And I am looking around for our award. There we are. All right. Fantastic. I was going to say, now it's really time to celebrate. Again, thank you for listening. Thank you for what you're going to take back. For everyone who participated in one of the projects, I did actually go through all the projects. They are so exciting and invigorating, and it's great to see ideas come out of the people who have passion for the citizens that we are serving and come to the point where we are delivering results. And that's really what this is about in the framework. So, all right, let's celebrate some winners.
Thank you so much. Let's thank Suzette Ken, everyone. Thank you. We're going to have Ron join over here, and Emma Brennan from our team will be holding the surprises. So this is a really exciting moment in the. Oh, thank you. I think I'm just gonna. Okay, who's ready to give out some awards? Woohoo! All right, so I want to just briefly provide a little bit of context on what we're doing here. So the Opportunity Project is an effort where companies build tools alongside other experts, and they keep that technology. It's something that we hope they can go and deploy in whatever way makes sense for their company. And over the past 4 years of doing this, we have come across the challenge that's really persistent in civic technology, which is what happens next. How do we sustain the technology and ensure that it is deployed and adopted and gets into people's hands so that it can actually deliver that impact that it was designed for? And so I want to just say, first of all, that of all the products, of all the teams that applied for the prize, we are very committed to supporting the teams in deploying those public interest technology products in many different ways, through product mentorship, through access to data expertise, through a post-sprint community of practice that we'll be launching. And then, of course, one of the ways that we're doing that is through these 5 prizes that we'll award. But I want to take a moment to just applaud everyone who's built a tool, everyone who applied for the prize, and we are very committed to supporting all of you, so thank you. So of the applicants to the prize, these had to be completed, built, functioning technology products that used federal open data, and they were assessed by panels of over 50 experts from government and industry and across sectors, and they were evaluated on things like technical quality, cross-sector collaboration, and the degree of end-user engagement, how well they used federal open data, and their implementation and impact plans. And so without further ado, we're now going to announce the 5 winners in each category. So Mara, and here's Suzette Kent again. Mara will be announcing the first.
Okay, so for the first category, 2020 census, the winner is data2go.nyc by the Social Science Research Council. Come on up.
So we're going to ask that you please come up to the stage. Hello. And then Marr will read a brief description of that product.
Yeah, so Data2Go, that's data2, like the number 2go.nyc, uses federal, state, and city data sets to provide reliable, up-to-date information on New York City neighborhood assets and challenges for all who work to improve the quality of life for New Yorkers in need. Congratulations.
All right, and for our second category, which was revolutionizing the workforce, the winner is inclusive development dashboards built by Burning Glass Technologies. Come on up, Burning Glass. While they're heading up, the inclusive Inclusive development dashboards built by Burning Glass Technologies use federal open data from many, many agencies, as well as proprietary Burning Glass data on labor market demand and public data from the U.S. Cluster Mapping Project, so lots of data in there to assist regional workforce and economic development conveners to develop strategies and prioritize initiatives to achieve inclusive development in their regions. So congratulations to Burning Glass.
All right. So for resilient people and places, the winner is Prados by Acosta PR. Congratulations. Is Raul here?
All right,
Yay,
Raul Rios, come on up. He's a little bit further from the stage, so we'll read his description slowly.
Awesome. I actually first met Raul in Puerto Rico when we did an in-person Opportunity Project workshop there around the resiliency of Puerto Rico. The Prados stands for Puerto Rico Address Database Operations Support, and it uses data sets from the Census Bureau, the U.S. Postal Service, and the National Address Database Schema to help municipalities and communities in Puerto Rico enhance their address infrastructure to support census operations, the island reconstruction process after Hurricane Maria, and improve emergency response and foster a more resilient future. Congratulations.
And congrats to ICASA, which was actually the highest or the second highest scoring application in 2 categories, both the 2020 census and resilient people and places. So we're excited about the potential for impact here. Okay, in building thriving communities, the 4th category, the winner is City Builder by CitiVentures. This, of course, you've heard about today. It was built in one of our sprints just this year. It uses U.S. Census Bureau, Department of Agriculture, Department of Education, and SEC data to bring transparency to the Opportunity Zone ecosystem for private investors, fund managers, wealth managers, and municipalities. So congrats to the team. And our final category, creating the future of health. The winner is Cure a Patient, built by Composite Apps. Cure a Patient uses U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs API and CMS API to reduce physician burnout and hospital readmission rates for veteran heart failure patients. So congrats again to the team. You can grab your big check. And then finally, if we can ask people to walk up pretty rapidly, we would also like to acknowledge 4 additional teams who we have as finalists or honorable mentions who built incredible products. And we really want to just give a round of applause for the work that they've done. So those teams are EMSI, Public Democracy, Ovella, and Girls Computing League. So if you guys can head on up, we'll snap a picture. Again, thank you so much to all of the people. I won't ask anyone to identify yourself, but there are people in this room who are judges of the prize competition. It was an incredibly rapid process and very rigorous, and we are so grateful for the experts. So come on up, honorable mentions. We'll just get a quick picture. We're so grateful for people's participation in this process. Like everything else with the Opportunity Project, we don't do it alone. We do it with tons of collaborators and coordination. So congrats again to EMSI, Public Democracy, Ovella, and Girls Computing League, amazing team who scored incredibly high. Okay, and as we are wrapping up this photo, thank you so much again to everyone. I'm going to just announce our closing speaker of the day, who we are incredibly grateful to have with us. So please help me in welcoming Chris Liddell, who is an incredible leader from both industry and now in government, who has helped to advance the Opportunity Project, the workforce cohort of this year, and our data curation efforts by initiating the Job Kit. Chris Liddell is Assistant to the President of the United States and Deputy Chief of Staff for Policy Coordination. Prior to this role, he served as an Assistant to the President and Director of Strategic Initiatives. Before being in the administration, he was Vice Chairman and CFO of General Motors and several other corporations. So we're incredibly grateful for his leadership, and I'll turn it over to Mr. Chris Liddell. Thank you.
Great, thank you. So it's my pleasure to help close the Opportunity Project 2019 Demo Day. I'm Chris Liddell, as you just heard, Deputy Chief of Staff for Policy Coordination at the White House. So I coordinate presidential policy priorities across the government, including topics such as trade, healthcare, and deregulation. It's also my honour to be on the National Council for the American Worker, where we're addressing the skills crisis by coordinating workforce priorities across the government, including increasing data transparency to better match American workers with American jobs. Collaboration inside and out of the government is a key to driving innovation. What I like about the Opportunity Project is that it spans multiple stakeholders, including the tech industry, government, and communities. We also need to harness the power of data to improve lives of citizens, and the Opportunity Project is at the forefront of the open data movement. Over the past 2.5 years, I've been working on technology and workforce policy, as was just mentioned, and I worked in the tech industry as well, being CFO of Microsoft a few years ago. I'm going to briefly discuss our progress to date and highlight examples of collaboration between the public and the private sector. The administration's Information Technology Modernisation Initiative was launched on June 21st, when the Office of American Innovation, headed by Jared Kushner, launched the American Technology Council and held a summit with key technology leaders. The President and I welcomed 18 CEOs from all the major tech companies, 3 university presidents, and a number of other notable technology executives to Washington for a full day of meetings. We discussed a wide variety of topics, including how to leverage big data to improve services and how to increase partnerships between universities, the private sector, the government, in order to bring innovative and modern systems to the American people. Following the summit, we helped establish the GSA Centers of Excellence to accelerate IT modernisation across government to improve the public experience and increase operational efficiency. The Centre of Excellence teams provide technical expertise in support of cloud adoption, contact centres, customer experience, data analytics, and infrastructure optimisation. The Centres of Excellence value industry is an important partner and seeks to work with the private sector to take what's been already done and apply it to or replicate it in government. For example, the Department of Agriculture is the flagship agency for the Centre of Excellence engagement. They've consolidated 26 data centres, established dashboards to provide the latest information to customers and employees, and decreased IT cyber vulnerabilities by 68%. We've also expanded upon our technology mission last December when we launched our Industries of the Future initiative as a way to highlight the administration's work in key emerging technologies, in particular artificial intelligence, advanced manufacturing, quantum information sciences, synthetic biology, and 5G. Most relevant to the stakeholders in this room is the American AI Initiative, which calls for improving public access to and quality of federal data. When the White House hosted its AI and Government Summit in September, we had about equal representation from federal agency technologists and from leaders in the private sector. The 3 major conclusions from this gathering were, first, that leveraging experiences and best practices across government, industry, and academia can be an effective way to accelerate the use of AI to improve government. Second, that a Centre of Excellence model can be an important mechanism for agencies to share AI expertise and best practices. Individuals shared their views on the best engagement model between agencies, industries, and the Centre of Excellence to foster partnerships and encourage rapid scaling of AI utilisation within the government. And lastly, that increasing the use of AI in government requires a workforce skilled in development and use of AI. Participants discussed ways that industry and academia can partner with government to share expertise needed for AI adoption. These conclusions highlight why the Opportunity Project is so important, because it brings together technologists inside and outside of the government to build products using open data from federal agencies and other sources. This is no easy feat when data policy experts are scarce and the infrastructure is difficult to navigate. Another area of focus on how we address barriers to data sharing. We've listened to private sector experts on a variety of topics, including advanced encryption, and brainstormed solutions that address important privacy and security concerns. We want to leverage data as a strategic asset by responsibly liberating data for stakeholder use. One path forward is to improve the usefulness and accessibility of existing US data across the board by addressing legal, cultural, and technical barriers to data liberation along the entire data lifecycle. The Office of Science Technology Policy, who we work with closely, will be coordinating pilots across the data lifecycle to promote innovation by enabling users to find, use, and responsibly share more US data, more US government data. So workforce is particularly valuable for creating impactful tools for American citizens. That's why the Office of American Innovation created JobKit, which is a website for data resources from across the federal government to help software developers and community leaders better serve the American worker. In the hands of developers, high-valued individual data sets can be combined into powerful new tools that lead to smarter and more cost-effective decisions about which jobs to take, which skills to acquire, which businesses to attract, and where to establish new businesses. I'm pleased that the Opportunity Project has taken over JobKit to not only serve as a data hub for the technologist, but also a user-friendly inventory for public use. You heard about the curated data sets by the Opportunity Project a little while ago. I'm excited to see them continue to expand this resource to drive data-driven solutions for the nation's biggest challenges. So the last initiative I'm going to highlight is the American Workforce Policy Advisory Board. The National Council for the American Worker established this private sector-led board to provide advice and recommendations on how the federal government can improve education, training, and retraining for American workers. The board is co-chaired by the Secretary of Commerce and Ivanka Trump. Members of the board include people like Tim Cook of Apple, Ginny Rometty of IBM, Governor Eric Holcomb of Indiana, and Jennifer Morgan, the co-CEO of SAP. The board is divided into 4 major work streams of work: developing a campaign to promote multiple pathways to career success, increasing data transparency to better match American workers with American jobs, modernising candidate recruitment and training practices, and measuring and encouraging employer-led training investments. The working group I'm most involved with is the one about data transparency. It's led by Jennifer Morgan and Governor Holcomb, and we're focusing on 3 main priorities: to improve skills-based ontologies, develop an interoperable record of individuals' learning history, experience and skills, and break down workforce data sharing barriers. In September, the board published a white paper on interoperable learning records, which is available to the public. A learning record is a verifiable information about a person's achievement in educational training processes, formal or informal, classroom-based or workforce-based. An ILR is a system that contains and can manage communication of credentials that describe an individual's skills and achievements. If the data can flow between education, training, and work, we can better answer difficult questions like, what's the highest paid job I can get with my current skill set? What's the best way to get additional training if I want to go into a new field? And what jobs am I qualified for with my current skill set? ILRs can bridge education, training, and employment, helping individuals understand their own abilities, apply their skills, and advance in their careers. So obviously there's a lot going on, and we're all here because we believe in the power of responsibly leveraging data to solve America's toughest problems. From labour force participation rate to calculating earning potential, problem solvers can use data to answer difficult questions. The best solutions tend to be developed through collaboration, like the Opportunity Project. All the initiatives I spoke about today have involved private sector participation, either through association or partnership. since nothing great can ever be built in a silo. So with that, thank you for being here. Congratulations to all the winners, and thank you for being an active leader in the data revolution. I hope you've enjoyed the day and on the speakers, and spend some time, as I understand it now, exploring the live demos. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. And with that, we are just about to head into live demos. So hopefully everyone is excited to get up and test out some technology. I want to just briefly make a couple of quick announcements. So if everybody can just not get up yet, please. If you haven't had enough of the Opportunity Project yet, there is an option for a second day, and we hope to see many of you there. We still have a few slots remaining for the inaugural Opportunity Project Summit, which is hosted by Georgetown University. It will be tomorrow from 9 to about 12:30, and you can RSVP if you want to snap a picture here, or it's topsummit2019.splashthat.com. I would definitely recommend taking a picture, screenshot. There's a lot of letters there. But we'd love to see you there. The purpose of that, this is, of course, a lot of sitting and listening and receiving, and the purpose of Top Summit is to get everyone together for a conversation, a more interactive workshop on what happens next, the future of open data, how we're going to use data and technology in the year 2070, and what we do next with the Opportunity Project. So we would love to see you there. Second, we want to encourage everyone to join us in our next round of Opportunity Project sprints. So if you were here in March, we announced that we were doing a workforce sprint and a 2020 census sprint, and all of that, just simple ideas, turned into all of the amazing technology that you saw here today. And so today we want to announce that one of the cohorts, which we're now calling Earth Cohort in 2020, will be our 10th Opportunity Project cohort, and we'll focus on themes including oceans, sustainable energy, sustainable communities, and many other things, including disaster response and more. So we would love to have not only you participate in that, but also for you to help us define what that looks like and how we can continue to work together. And I really cannot emphasize enough, this is an incredibly collaborative team effort. So I do want to acknowledge and ask for everyone to applaud more than a few very critical people. So I'll read the Census Open Innovation Labs team, of course, in addition to me and Marra, is Lorena Molina Irizarry, who you heard from, as well as Ivan Metzger, Michael Neal Bagby, Anna Wong, Emma Brennan, Dominika Zhu, Radhika Bhatt, Anna Valuev, Ashley Jablow, and Haley Ashcombe. We definitely want to thank our prize judges. Again, over 50 of them helped us to make this possible. The Department of Commerce and Census Bureau leadership, including Ron, Director Dillingham, and many others. All of our problem statement leaders from across agencies, many of them are here today. The Opportunity Project participants, the prize and demo day support teams, and all of the census experts and champions who worked with us this year. So please help me thank all of them for their work. And finally, I promise this is actually the last slide. We want to make sure to shout out, there are several teams who will be at live demos who you didn't hear from on stage, who also built incredible tech products. If we had all the time in the world, we would make you listen to all of them, but we don't. So thank you to Community Connect Labs, Columbia University, Votes, Civic Software Foundation, Oracle Healthcare, MyCancerDB, LifeOmic, and Sanford Imaginetics. In addition to everyone you heard on stage and the prize winners, these teams will also be at live demos. So I'll now conclude here, say thank you again to everyone, and let's go check out the live demos.